Jonathan with Iron Mind Hypnosis here. I want to talk a little bit about um, appearances, a little bit about epistemology, how we know things, how we know what's true, what's real. I was talking with another hypnotist earlier today, and we talked a little bit about this, and we were talking about how you pick any physical object, whether it's your hand or something physical in your environment, and it seems real and solid. In fact, if you were to strike it or hit yourself with a thing, you would probably cause injury. It would hurt. But just because a brick wall or any other sort of wall seems very solid, if you look very closely, well, you'll still see solids. If you keep looking more closely, let's say you get an electron microscope or something like that, and you start probing it that way. Well, it looks a little less solid, but honestly, these things are still going to look like they're made up of lots of individual atoms. Okay, fair enough. Maybe atoms are solid. And if you get the right equipment for this task, maybe it's the right analytical equipment. There are cases where they've seen individual electrons with the scanning microscope, but say you're using a particle accelerator, something big and powerful, maybe like CERN, or well, there are a number of these on the planet, and you start probing inside the atom. And it took us a while to realize what was going on inside atoms. Most of the space in an atom is electrons, and as near as we can tell about electrons, they are points. They are true points as closely as we have managed to look, and we've looked really closely. And they look like points. So to say they have a volume, a space that they take up, isn't true. That said, there's a push that they are responsible for, and they push things away from themselves. So that's why your hand doesn't easily go through a brick wall, is electrons pushing electrons. Now, inside of all those electrons, deep inside each atom, again, this took us a little bit to find, there's the nucleus of the atom. And just so you have a feel for the kinds of space that is open in an electron, or in an atom, we're talking like sports stadium versus sports ball. Imagine all of that space is empty, because that's basically what's going on everywhere. Is even in the core of the Earth, under tremendous pressure, all that iron and nickel down there is mostly empty space. But you keep looking, you find the nucleus, you go, fantastic. Let's look within that. Well, things get really chaotic when you start looking in there, by the way. And inside the nucleus, you've got protons and neutrons. And depending on what you're looking at, you've got different amounts of these things. Some of them are stable, some of them are unstable. You can use them for different things. And they're what really determine what atom you're looking at, because all electrons are the same. And so you look at the nucleus and you go, great, okay, it's made out of protons and neutrons, great. And over the course of time, we learned how to look even closer. We wanted to know what was inside these things. And so we looked. And then we came up with things called quarks. Now, as far as we know yet, the quarks are as deep down as this rabbit hole goes. They're much like the electrons, in that they either don't take much space or don't take space. And it's depending on kind of what interpretation you take. There's a way of saying that it's all just energy down there. It's vibrations in certain fields related to our universe, and that's what's really going on that we interpret as particles. But the upshot is things that look solid to us: walls, refrigerators, lights, all these things are mostly empty space. Okay, fair enough. So that's a great thing about physics, but unless you're a chemist or a physicist, where does that apply to anybody? Let me step back out from the subatomic world and talk about a riddle that I remember being told as a child. If I were to ask you, what color is a polar bear's skin? What color is a polar bear's skin? What would your answer be? Now, maybe you've heard this riddle before. Maybe you know a lot about polar bears. But certainly, and I probably believe that I was one with the wrong answer, I would have answered white. Because you look at pictures of polar bears, or you look at them in the zoo, they look pretty close to white. But if you were to actually, for some reason, shave a polar bear, it turns out they have a lot of fur. That fur is very protective, and it's best off that fur be white. But underneath all that fur, a polar bear's skin is black. And there's reasons why that should be too. So that's interesting. It looks one thing, but it's another. Okay, fair enough. Just depends on asking the right question. What color is the polar bear's skin? We misheard each other. We thought we were talking about the fur. Okay, well enough. We just had to be very specific. Okay. But what if the question was, what color is a polar bear? All right. Well, is a person the color of their hair? Certainly, you find lots of people who refer to people by the color of their hair. That's a popular thing to have happen. Certainly, animals get referred to that way all the time. It's a black cat. It's a yellow cat. Whatever. It's maybe it's a Siamese cat. What this is the typical way we look at the surface level of the light that reflects off this thing, makes it back to our eyes, and that's where we go, that thing is that. And we say, this is that. Like a thing could just be its color. A thing, even an animal, especially a pet, typically has a personality. No two black cats are going to be the same black cat, but we all say they're black cats. Mercifully, with pets, we usually have the decency to give them names. But what about this polar bear? What color is that polar bear? Is it white like its fur? Is it black like its skin? Or maybe there's a different metric. Maybe the surface metric isn't appropriate. Maybe a volumetric metric. I know this is getting a little bit weird, but what if rather than looking at the surface of a thing, like most of us would like to be known by more than just what our outside looks are, maybe something for our heart, something from our soul, something from our mind, something from our character. But what's the inside of a polar bear look like? I would argue that most of the inside of a polar bear is going to be red. Just like most warm-blooded mammals, almost all of them is red on the inside. There's going to be a little bit of gray matter at one end. There's going to be lots of white bits holding everything up. There's going to be probably a darker thing running through to process the nourishment. But most of it's going to be red. but it looks white on the outside. So the thing I would encourage is to notice that when we want to know something deep and true about a thing, about a situation, about whatever, about another person, basically the things that are first to our minds are the aesthetics, the outside, what the outside looks like. And you know what they say about first impressions, how crucial first impressions are. But the bulk of a person, and most people would say the most important parts, are going to be the insides of a person. Maybe it's what's in here. Maybe it's what's in here. Maybe it's something else even. When I was talking with my friend, and we were talking about how things and appearances, and you look at a green plant, and a green plant looks green because green is the color that comes to your eyes. But here's the thing about green plants. Green plants appear green because they have no freaking use for green. Green plants are not radiating green, though they might look like it. Green is the thing they had no use for. They're throwing away. In fact, there's wavelengths outside of human vision that they also throw away. In the near infrared, they look like a really bright deep red, but it's outside human perception. So in a very real way, green plants are not green plants, though they look green. They're not green. The reason we see green is they're not greenness. Their total lack of use for that color is the reason that's the part that's not sopped up for photosynthesis and makes it to us to see and go, oh, look at all that greenery. Green is kind of a waste product as far as, that's not quite right. It's an unused thing for the plants. Just don't need it. So as you look out in the world, as you even look at yourself, know that any perception that you have about this world, about other people in this world, and it's real easy to think you know all the relevant factors about people, especially if you're having trouble with them, if you're having a frustration with them. It's real easy to believe that you know all the important things there are to know about a person. But know that whether you like a person or you dislike a person, or you will like a person or you won't, depending on, irrespective of whether they agree with you or will not agree with you, they have different tastes in art, different tastes in politics, different beliefs, different anything. Know that there is more. And this goes for you too. And I'm not just talking about how other people see you. I'm talking about how you see yourself. There is always more to you. There's always more. There's always more nuance. There's always more depth. There's always more variety. There's always more strength. There's always more creativity. So don't think just because all you've seen in the past is whatever level that is, or all that you people feed back to you, all the feedback that you get, all the comments are a certain thing. That's all you can be. No. There's more to you. Just as there is more to everyone else. There's value to the things going on in your heart and your mind. And just as there's value going on in the hearts and minds of other people. And yes, a lot of times those things will seem to contradict. And even in yourself, within you, there will be parts, different neural networks, different parts of your brain specifically mapped that promote things and depromote things, things that are in conflict, that are trying to balance. If either one of those sides was missing, you would probably have a pathology. There would be functions you could not take part in society. You would be mentally handicapped in some way. So understand that just because you see a conflict, or you see something in yourself that's not working, or you see other people and there seems to be only so much of them, know that it might be hiding. The more to them might be hiding, it might have never found a safe way to express itself. Or it might be merely that it just is not a thing that's easy to express in words or easy to express around you. But there's always more to other people, just as there's always more to you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.